Herb Crimp thought he was selling his 2006 BMW online for a good price, but it turns out he got way more trouble than he bargained for.
I became so infused and excited about trying to sell the car and have this opportunity that we were getting pretty much taken into it.
Crimp posted his car for sale on cars.com and got a response pretty quickly from a man claiming to be Scott Clark at a Hotmail address who offered to pay more than the agreed upon price. Clark also gave instructions on how to proceed, saying that he'd send this check for $28,000, which Crimp could use for the cost of the car and associated shipping costs. He then asked Crimp to wire $4,000 to 2 different addresses in Madrid, Spain. But consumer advocates say wiring money overseas is typically a bad idea, especially when the buyer is making a purchase without seeing the product.
They don't want it. They're not buying it. They're just trying to get you to wire money.
Experts say the biggest red flag is when people are asked to send a small amount of money in exchange for an even larger amount of money, and Herb Crimp would agree. Crimp took the check to a bank in West Virginia, and it told him it was not real.
The $28,000 just by itself was mind-boggling, you know, and so for me to have this happen and come so close to just cashing it and giving them the money and everything, I'm just glad I was able to stop myself.
Crimp then emailed Scott Clark telling him the check was bad, and Clark's response was far from gracious. He tried to guilt-trip Crimp, saying that Crimp was hurting his business. Herb knew it was a scam right then for one particular reason.
Nothing like, if you cash that check, I'm going to have the police out after it. No concern about that at all.
Consumer advocates say scammers are smart. If you were to search for this Scott Clark, you'd be directed to a dealership outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. News 7 called that dealership, and they report nobody uses the email address Crimp had in his records. David Kaplan, News 7 Roanoke. Bruno Natal, the owner of CNY Solar Protection, will be the first to tell you the science of applying window film is pretty straightforward.
We apply the film and we squeegee it, paper towel to dry, and it looks like it's part of the glass.
Because of the crackdown on window tinting, one might expect car modification shops like Natal's to be busier removing tints than putting them on. But he says that people are so obsessed with the look darker windows give their car that they don't care too much about the uptick in enforcement.
Once that's done, once they pay the ticket or the ticket gets dismissed, they're usually back in here getting the film put back on.
And Natal makes all his clients sign a waiver so that law enforcement officers can't blame his company.
Just by looking at a car, they can tell if it's illegal.
If you get pulled over by a policeman and he can see through your window, you might be in pretty good shape. But if that same officer can see his own reflection in your window, you might be in a little bit of trouble. The Onondaga County Sheriff's Department is one of the agencies actively enforcing and publicizing these laws, which are equipment, not moving violations.
It's a danger for everybody. It's a danger for the driver. It's the danger for other motorists. It's a danger for pedestrians. It is a danger to law enforcement personnel.
But danger is a relative term for many people with tinted windows.
No, definitely. It's tough making left and right turns, but it's not impossible.
Sure, his car may be flashy, but it's also a target for law enforcement agencies this March as he cruises the streets. David Kaplan, NCC News.